So many of y'all know that technically Jordan, I don't know, I already wanted to start the show very sillily and say is my subordinate. He is technically my employee. If we look at my brand and our business, I had the company before Jordan and I got together for a little over a year, and then we got together when I first started. Now, if you really date back, I don't know, some of you might who are listening might be followers of mine, OGs from like way back when I got started over 6 years ago, and my blog was called the Violet Butterfly, and so my LLC is Violet Butterfly LLC. It wasn't great branding because what does that even mean? So we are doing business as Sex and Love Co. And so anyway, that makes quite a bit more sense for us. But at early stages, when it was Violet Butterfly, and I was a sex educator, and the majority of what I was doing was just educating on the dynamics of sex and sex toys and sexual health and wellness and expression and all of that. And so as my brand and my businesses developed over the years, and then Jordan wound up leaving his corporate gig with Bulletproof. Some of y'all might be familiar with the company Bulletproof. You got this, Lex. You can do this today. This is the first of several podcasts. So red leather, yellow leather. So anyway, Jordan left Bulletproof. And at the time he was still doing, or he was doing men's work part-time while he was also working for this nutrition and health and wellness company. And so he left Bulletproof and then wound up exploring what it would look like if he were to go all in on men's work and men's coaching and performance coaching, kind of leveraging his health and wellness side and nutrition side, because he is a hashtag keto bro through and through. He also looks like a Greek god. And so he just, I don't understand it, but especially watching what he eats all day, majority of his calorie intake is supplements and powders. And I'm like, I don't know, but the 9 abs speak for themselves. So I'm just going to throw my hands up. But anyway, that was the how we got together. COVID hit, and then, he was kind of toying with, do I want to go into comedy? Do I want to go that route where I'm on stages and I'm going to, open mic nights and I'm doing that. And then he was also doing the coaching. And then when COVID hit, so much of what he was exploring, it couldn't happen in the same way. And so we had some really tough conversations about what it would look like for him to just merge what he was doing instead of having his own LLC and his own company. What would it look like if we bridged, like if we came together? And then under the Sex and Love Co umbrella, he worked with men, I worked with women, and we worked with couples. Eventually we started working with couples after a decent amount more, I would say, trainings and workshops and knowledge gathering in that regard, so that we could coach, effectively couples. And so we spent some time there before we actually started delivering programs, things like that, under Sex and Love Co. And so I give all of this like preface just to give you, the timeline as to where we're going here, because over the last 3 years or so, because it's been at the point of this recording, I just had my on this day memories pop up that COVID lockdown happened 3 years ago. And this was about the time that we were having these conversations. And it was like, what is it going to look like? Because to me, I was like, it doesn't make sense for you to have this knowledge base and for us not to just team up. We're great. We are such great facilitators together. We have such a unique blend of the silliness and the playfulness and the sincerity and the depth, and our knowledge to collectively is really broad. And so I was like, yeah, I was a champion for this. And then he started on the job, and I basically panicked, where I was like, oh no, you're coming in here and I've been working for this for years. I have an established brand. I have established community. I've established all these things, and you're coming in here and you're trying to change things. And I have to give you a salary. Like, this doesn't make any sense. Your salary is almost just as much as mine is, but I've been putting all this effort into, and I just like I had a process with it for sure. Outside of that, like that's like the inner workings of our business, of me trying to regulate and like tell myself the truth and things, and that we're on the same team. And then our relationship and our business just like started to get murky and kind of blend together. And then it was like, we couldn't really talk about anything that we couldn't really talk about anything that wasn't work. It just kind of took over our lives. We were talking about it pretty consistently. And so we noticed this pretty early on. We were trying to pull it apart and figure out what we wanted to do. And then again, like throw in as well, my backstory and history of growing up with a single military mom, that whole deal. Y'all, if you've been listening for a while, then you know, I got a lot of the alpha woman situation going on with my system. Like I didn't have a male figure, didn't have a father figure in my life. I only understood that women need to take care of, they need to make the money, they need to take care of their children, they have to be the sole care provider, they have to be everything. They have to do everything. I never saw what it looked like for a man to help out and to take care of his children and to support and to provide for a family. And so, I have all this armor that I would say I've accumulated over 30 plus years of my life. That's my protectors. And at one point they did protect me when I was young and growing up. And now I'm in a safe, beautiful marriage, and my husband wants to be a partner with me, and I a lot of times am fighting him because I think I know best, and I think he's intruding, and I think all these things. And so, blend the things that I've been I've prided myself on, and then people have given me a lot of great feedback on. It's like, oh, you're so bold and you're fierce and you can command a room and you have all this great stuff about you. But then when I translate that into my marriage and my relationship, that's the stuff that doesn't create polarity. And so I'm like building up to introducing today's guest, because this is the conversation that we're going to have, more or less. That's my story, my background and the timeline that Jordan and I have gone through about, being in relationship with one another, being all in, going through our ups and downs. I mean, the most challenging time in our relationship was literally this several weeks leading up to our wedding. And I was just like, whoa, what is actually happening? I feel like I'm in a was it the time zone? Time zone. You've now entered
time warp.
Time warp. That old show, or I'm like, what is
Twilight
actually happening
Zone.
here? Twilight Zone, time zone. Central Standard Time. So that I would say over the last year, we've really, really, really prioritized how do we have a good grasp on this, and how do I heal from some of the things that have been really inhibiting us from being in love and making a great business and a great life and even more money. And so I'm still working it out. I'm still figuring it out. And I'm so thankful to people like today's guest that we're going to get to have this conversation about how she's been able to make it work. And I'm so grateful to community and, my in-person community and the community that I have with all of you who are the listeners. That way, topics like this are best served, like best navigated as a mastermind. Like who's figuring this out and how and when and why. And so without further ado, Megan, thank you so much for coming onto the show. I'm so excited for this convo for so many personal reasons.
Thank you so much. That was awesome to listen to, by the way. I love that. I was like, wait, I feel so many similarities here. This is going to be a really beautiful conversation. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Yeah. And so just to kick off the show, because this one is unique, it's having you come onto the show is not having someone who is another sex educator or relationship expert or anything like that. You are an expert in your own field. But we're getting to have a real conversation. And so about what your business and your life and success and how, basically your journey and your timeline with all of this and what it's all led to. I just feel like it's going to be so real for so many people, even if they're not entrepreneurs. Maybe they're stay-at-home moms, which to me, when I see my friends that are doing the stay-at-home mom thing or the work from home mom thing, I'm like, holy fucking shit, that is way more intense than what I do over here on my side. And I sometimes I'm like, oh my God, my schedule is so fucking busy. And then I see one of my friends and I'm like, just kidding. I'm going to shut up now. I'm going to shut up now. And so I would love if you could give the audience just a little bit of your backstory and what you do and just kind of like your version of the timeline that I was just describing, and of course we can do your timeline a little bit spread out because I want to double click on yours.
I love it. Oh, I love that. How you put that. Yeah. Thank you again for having me. I'm really excited to talk about this. And I think I know personally, I love hearing like real stories. I love educators, of course. I love pros and people who have spent years perfecting their craft. But I'm on the other side. I'm the person who hires the pros, has hired your pros. And so I've really been in it for the last few years with my husband. So we just have a very, I think, beautiful story, very hard story, but very real story. And I think a rare success story. So I'll kind of tie both in if that's cool, like the business journey and ours, because it really actually goes hand in hand. So back in 2009, I graduated from San Diego State, go Aztecs, and I
Oh,
moved to LA.
did you know that Jordan's also at San Diego State?
No.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh
I like
yeah,
him even more now.
he's a Kappa Sig through and through. Kappa
There you
Sig.
go.
Oh my God, if I got that
Huge
wrong,
Greek
he
life.
will murder me. Our relationship will be over.
It's very big Greek life. I wasn't in the Greek life, but I dated someone there. So I got into all the parties, which was wonderful. So had a great time in college, loved it. Graduated, moved to LA to pursue film, TV, and theater, even though I majored in marketing. I was like, nope, this is my passion. I'm going to go do what I want. I got my safe degree. And for about 3 years, did that, started my first business online in a network marketing company, and started to really see like the potential of making money online. And this was in 2012 is when I like really started. And that was still very new at the time. I don't even think I used Facebook or Instagram in the beginning. I think it was just my Facebook personal page. So very different than it is now. And then I moved home back to New York. I'm originally from New York, and I moved back home to really pursue theater because that's where it is. And I met my now husband, and we immediately connected and I pretty much knew like this was my person. And right away, as far as intimacy goes, the way it worked for us was we actually delayed that in our relationship. And it was so foreign to me because I remember being like, after about a month, and I never share this, so it's really fun to be in a space where I feel so comfortable sharing this. But I remember telling my friends, like, am I a slut? Why doesn't he want to have sex with me? Like, why are we not having sex after like a week? And it taught me so much. But a big thing that we had to start working through was just what our relationship with intimacy was going to be like, because it was different than any other relationship I'd been with, where every other relationship, that was the first thing they wanted. That was the first thing that they sought. And so it was actually really refreshing, but also I thought, is there something wrong here? And so that kind of brought us into a whole new world in a relationship. And we ended up, as a lot of people do, I think in their early 20s, or this is our mid 20s actually, having alcohol be a huge part of our relationship and of our intimacy, to where we pretty much were only intimate when we were drinking. And so that, just to set the stage with that, because it does have a lot to do with the rest of the story. So moved back, started dating, and my business started to blow up. And before you knew it, I was able to quit all my side jobs. And then I started my my own company outside of network marketing. I saw a lot of potential. I felt really restricted with just that one company, even though it was wonderful and got me to where I was. And then I started my business now, and I've been doing it since 2018, helping online coaches, service providers build their online businesses, really find what's unique about them and market themselves. And during all of that, as I think happens to a lot of women, and something you said really resonated, I became the sole breadwinner. My husband quit his job. He pursued his own businesses, but it really was on me. And I also grew up with a mother who was the sole provider. Was my father eventually got his own business, but for the majority of my life, she was the breadwinner and constantly working few jobs, like was just I can do it all, and was a great mom. And so I thought that too. That's why when you said that, I was like, wow, I so feel that. And I've always been very like type A, Enneagram 3, go, go, go. We got this. We got this. I'm a generator, all those things together. And so when our relationship, especially our sex life started to go downhill, I amped that up. And before you knew it, I was like in my masculine 24/7, and we had no polarity, and we were really, really butting heads for the whole year that I was growing. I mean, my business 5 times in 1 year. And on the outside, everyone thought, oh my gosh, you're having all this success. It looks amazing. But behind the scenes, my marriage was crumbling. My sex life was non-existent. And I felt like a fraud a lot of that year, because this one part of my life was so incredible. And I really dove into it because that's where I felt like this is what I can do, and this is what I'm good at. But the most important part was almost non-existent, to the point where we then separated. I can go on from there, but I just there's a lot to it. So I don't want to go too far.
No, I think that's so beautiful. And you're like speaking, and that's so real for so many people.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Especially today, especially with especially with the messaging that women, especially in my generation, maybe the generation before, yeah, the generation before us, certainly the generations behind us, is that you can do and be and have anything and everything that you want all at
Yeah.
the same time if you
Yeah.
want it, to the point where it's like a trade-off, your soul for all these things. And so
Mhm.
women, I think, get this messaging, or they see this and hear the messaging, and then see their moms or see how that shook out, and think that that's what's going to lead them to be happy, is to have all of these things. When
Yep.
in reality, it's the relationships. It's the
Mhm.
quality of the relationships, because otherwise they have ticked all these boxes, and they have all these, you know, perceivable like things, not necessarily tangible, but things like the children and the home and the, everything operates in a particular way. Um, but there's, disconnection from herself first and foremost, and then
Yeah.
almost an over, like you say, masculinized, like self-critical and critical towards others. And it's just it spirals into I think deep unfulfillment in the long run, even if that's like the money doesn't buy you happiness kind of thing, like it's just, wow, I have all of these things and I'm so incredibly unfulfilled. And so,
Yeah.
and I don't know if that is where what you were experiencing, because I also know the highs, and I know the highs of business, where I have a launch that goes really well, and I'm like, holy shit, look what we were just able to do. And not only, our business and the revenue, but how many lives we're able to affect
Mhm.
change in, you know? And so that feeling of I'm doing my Dharma work and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing here. And that like testosterone fueled high.
Mhm.
And then, it's almost like if I can't get the love and connection and whatever that I think that I need, and that I'm actually not even at a place that is receptive to what I ultimately in my head desire, but I'm
Mhm.
not in a place where I'm not the energy and the match for what I actually desire, then I look at my partner and I'm like, what's wrong with you? Why can't you do these things? And then I just go, you know what? Never mind. Fucking never mind. I'll do it all myself, and I'll just go
Yeah.
back in my office where I get validation and I provide for our family and I have all these excuses. So yeah, that's real. That is
Yeah.
real.
It's exactly, that's where you put it so well. That's where I was getting the validation. That's where I felt like, oh, you're good at this and you're really not good at this other thing. And it wasn't that I wasn't good at it. It's that we weren't communicating. We weren't talking about what was happening, like everything. And the thing is, on the outside in, we're best friends and we're really good in front of people, like we like jab with each other. We poke fun. Like we're really good together. And we always had such love and respect and care for each other that it wasn't like there was fighting going on. There wasn't anything like no blowups or anything like that, but there was this underlying constant tension. And it was just obvious. We literally were not intimate for so long that we both felt like it got to that point where it's been so long that how do you're just going to keep ignoring this? And at the time we actually did start seeing a relationship coach, because I was like, we can't do this anymore. Like I cannot live like this anymore. And you can't live like this anymore. This isn't just me. I know he can't either. And we just really got to that point where we needed that help. And it really got to this point where even though we did so much work together and started to explore, I did a lot of feminine and masculine embodiment workshops, and we did like retreats and stuff like that. And it was incredible. But we got to a point where we just needed to separate. And that is like not recommended for most people. And I'm not a relationship coach. I'm not an expert in any of this. But my relationship coach always said to us that this was a few years ago. She said, I don't recommend most of my clients separate because the majority don't get back together. It's really tough. But I think this is the right move for you guys, because in our coaching, we found, especially for him, I'd been doing a lot of personal growth work as you do in business, been in therapy, done all that stuff. So it wasn't new to me, but it was pretty new to him. And it opened up a can of worms, lots of stuff from his childhood, lots of trauma, all this stuff that was like, oh, now we got to work on that. And he felt like, because of the type A person I am, I was like, by the end of the year, if this isn't like solidified and we're not at this other point, I don't think I can do this anymore. Which, looking back, I'm like, why did I give this strict timeline to healing? That doesn't happen. You can't heal in a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I didn't know. And so we got to this point where we just needed space for him to really work on his stuff and a process and to deal with all these things that are coming up, and myself as well. And so we actually took 6 months apart right when COVID happened. And we didn't know that we were going to be shut down during our separation. So that was really fun. That threw a whole other wrench, because we actually wanted to start dating 3 months in, and starting to see each other again. And we couldn't, we were quarantined. So by month 6, we realized this isn't going anywhere. We need to work on this together. And this 2-week quarantine is obviously way longer. So we got an apartment, we moved back in, and we really started our relationship over. I really feel like we started our marriage anew at that reunion. And it took about 6 months or so to really get on the same page and go, we are doing this and we're over this hump and we're going to make this work. Those first 6 months were questionable. And after that, it was kind of like a rocket ship. We bought a house, we got a puppy. We decided we were ready to start having kids. We hired your incredible coaches, and it's been such a beautiful journey ever since. But behind the scenes, I got rid of a lot in my business. I totally changed the way I remodeled everything because I had to. Like, a huge part of our tension was how much I was working and how much it was just impacting me emotionally. And kind of like you said before, all of my validation and worth was coming from that. And I knew that was really dangerous. So I had to do a lot of that work too.
Yeah. Yeah. Getting the validation for, like the generator oriented tasks and the masculine tasks of production, of traditional, like what success looks like your revenue and your bottom line, and that equals success. And so, I don't know if you've experienced this, but I've come to the place like this is where I get validation. And so it's an easy fix. It's an easy way for me to get attention and all of that. And then at some point, like there have been times where then I get the hit, like I see like money comes in or I see programs sell or whatever. And then I've like lost the feeling. I'm like almost numb to that too. So, so it's like always bigger and what's more, but I see that as like I wouldn't say that those are the kinds of things that I experience frequently. It's like they're barometers, now I'm able to look at them personally as like oh, this is external validation, and the success of my life is based off of the quality of my relationships, including my relationship to my work. And so am I proud of the relationship that I have with my work? Do I have a nice balance with that? And leaning into femininity, leaning into softness, leaning into grace and ease and being a magnet for things. It's like, oh, well, in work, I can push and I can drive and I can strategize and I can all these things in order to attract. But I also want to attract love, and I want to attract devotion and adoration, and like for my husband to be my hero, which means I get to choose to surrender to what I desire the most, which is not being a helpless little girl in my relationship. I wouldn't even know what to do. That's like a character I put on, because I'm like, of course I know how to use, like a day ago, it was yesterday, I wanted the Dremel, like the drill. Well, I don't know what anything's called today. The power tool, like I wanted the drill. I needed to move the legs on my office desk. I rearranged my office. I needed to move the legs from one side to the other side. And I didn't know what bit to put on the tip of it. And so I was like, you know what? Instead of just like forcing myself to find this in the garage, I'm going to go to my husband. I'm going to give him an opportunity to be my hero. But I had to like breathe through that first. Like I'm going to intentionally let you step in and be my hero. And what was kind of funny was that Jordan was in the middle of writing, or he was like in a flow. He had just finished and he was like in a flow and feeling all like focused. And he's like, do you need that now? And I was like, and he goes, never mind. I'll find it for you right now. Cause he knew in that moment, if he doesn't take that opportunity that I'm going to go, I can do it all myself. And so he's also aware of the role that he plays in this, like, oh, no, you're giving me an opportunity to like be your champion, and I will save the day by finding the drill bit. He's like, cause all I wanted was the tip was the right drill bit. Then he was like, no, I'm fixing the legs right now. And he's in my office. Can I figure it out if I go in there by myself, or do you need to give me direction?
Like, oh my gosh. I love
this is the work. These are examples of the work. Yeah. And so, if I want to double click a little on, goodness, like so many pieces and parts to your relationship, because I'm super curious how you were able to do it. I think that Jordan and I are consistently doing better and better with this in our lives. And there's for sure opportunities for us to do it even better. So when you decided to bring him on and remodel everything, what was the driver? How did that initial aha, come on. And you did mention that you worked with some of our coaches. And so shout out to James and Angela,
Yeah.
who are Sex and Love co-coaches that work with couples, and they are a couple.
Yeah.
And I just adore them both. James goes to all of Jordan's men's program stuff. And they have come to our couples retreat experiences. I'm not sure if they're coming to our upcoming one, but we just adore them so much. They worked with us for a long time. So
Yeah,
anyway.
they're incredible. I mean, joke, but not joke is they're the reason we have our sex life now. So
Fuck yeah.
yeah, it's been absolutely incredible. Yeah, I love this question. And I think what kind of like hit its head was the end of 2020. After 6 months of being back together, I was like, okay, I physically can't keep going at the way I was going. We were making incredible income, but all of it required me, everything. I did not set anything up to be passive. I had one passive course. Everything else was like high level masterminds, one-on-one coaching, group programs. And I loved all my clients, but no matter how much you love coaching, at the end of the day, if you're on calls all day, every day, you're going to be really exhausted. And so I just decided to cut a few things. I cut one whole mastermind. I cut another one down. I got rid of half my private clients. And so that cut my income a lot. And I went, I don't have a plan to replace this, and I can't create the plan until I have the space and time. So that was first. And I know not everyone's in a situation that they can do that. And so I totally acknowledge that. This was something I felt really lucky that I was able to do. But we got rid of those things. I said, I'd rather take a hit on that. My ego was more hurt than anything because we were well over our means. We were fine. We were really, really fine as far as like financially and paying for our bills and all of that stuff. So I said, let's just take this hit for a bit. And it was the best thing and honestly the hardest thing to do because of that validation. I was like, okay, now I'm not getting it there. Now where else am I going to get it? And so we dove into our relationship coaching. We got so into that became almost like a full-time job. So I did start to get it there because I started to see us progressing, which felt really, really great. And some things that I started to do in 2021 was I went every single new program I'm going to put out to try to replace that and build back up. I want to put it out in with the mindset of, can I have a family with this program? Because that's a huge goal for us. That's a really, really big focus for us. And so that was everything that I thought was, can I have a family with this? Can I spend time with my husband? Can I prioritize this? Will this drain me? And it was really tough because it's so tempting to go back to what you know works and back to what you know will make you money and back to what you know people will say yes to and want more of. And so I had to really say no to a lot of things. I also tried things that didn't work. I spent money on things that didn't work. I put out programs that didn't work, and I put out some that did. And so 2021 was kind of like an experimentation year. And then 2022 was really one of those years where something flipped for us. And he did start to come into the business. He started to work on the podcast. He's starting to work on ads. So he's taking some roles in the business, but we went from being my business separate. I'm the breadwinner. It's all me. It's all me. It's all me too. It's our business. And we're really a team now. And I think that's the biggest shift is we were so separate. It was almost like we were competing because he had his own business. He had a ticket broker business that crashed and burned during COVID because everything got shut down. So he was like, this is a sign that I need to go do something else. And we went from being so separate and almost this underlying competition to really being a team. And he's actually a professional poker player. And so it's one reason we live in Vegas. And while we're here, he has really busy poker seasons. I have launch seasons. And it's been this really beautiful, not perfect, but really beautiful kind of blending of how can I support you during your poker seasons? How can you support me during this launch? What can you take off my plate, et cetera? And we've gone through a lot in the last year with some personal life stuff coming up. And if we didn't go through all of that, I don't think we would have survived last year, to be quite honest, because of how huge of things that happened to our family. And it really just made us go, wow, we have built this rock solid relationship because we're now not operating as two separate entities, but we are a team. And what will help the team? And one of the biggest things that helps the team is us being on the same page. We do weekly marriage meetings. We make sure we prioritize our intimacy, even during busy seasons, even if it's a small session, it's just something. And so that's been the biggest change. And it's really great because now when I share business stuff with him, he's a part of it. He's not like in the business, like full time. It sounds like Jordan is, or like as much of a role, but he's aware of the launches. He knows the programs. He understands what's going on. He's helping me. He's rooting for me. I'm rooting for him. And it's just so different. I don't look at it as my business, my money. I look at it as this is just one leg of our financial future that's just letting us be this beautiful couple together. And we're really having a lot of fun now.
I can feel it. So, do you think that it is more important for a woman married to a man? I mean, just married in general, but a woman who's married to prioritize her marriage over her business?
I personally, yes, I do.
Mhm.
I do. And the reason I say that is because, well, one, I did the opposite. And so I know what that was like. But and actually our mutual friend Hannah was recently on my podcast and we talked about this. Like when our relationship and our marriage is rock solid, my business is better. I can be so much more energized and excited. And you can see it in my face, in my videos, and like everything clicks. My creativity is better because I'm having more sex, because I feel more creative. Like when that is better, I can put so much energy into my business. When my marriage is suffering and my relationship is suffering, I am maybe working more, but it's like half the energy because so much of my brain is thinking about us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had a feeling what the answer to that question was going to be. Because like you said, the alternative is that you prioritize other things outside of your relationship, and your relationship, you can feel it, and your partner can feel like they are, second rate or on the back burner, and that they're barely getting what's left of you, after you pour yourself into your work. And so, I
Mhm.
mean, we're speaking specifically for entrepreneurs, and I think we're a pretty unique category because it's one thing, to have a job that there's someone who's the leader, who is the entrepreneur up at the top, wherever they are, and you have specific roles and responsibilities, and you wear a particular hat, and you clock in and you clock out, and that clock out is check out
Mhm.
of the work. And some people might have, jobs and all that it does trickle over, and they have a hard time disconnecting from emails and disconnecting from those kinds of things because they're wanting the next promotion, or they risk or they fear of being let go, and all of that. And so I do understand that there's some transfer, but I think that the entrepreneur is a unique situation because it never stops. I don't think it stops for anyone who's in this role. I'll just speak for myself though. It fucking never stops. It never
Yeah.
stops. I'm thinking about it constantly. I'm thinking about my clients constantly. I'm thinking about ways to package, ways to promote, ways to market. I feel really grateful at this point. Jordan and I, neither of us have a what I'd say as uh neither of us are overly excited about the financial bucket.
Mm.
Organizing, bookkeeping, strategizing in that regard, taxes, making sure that all of like business legal stuff is all kept up to speed. When we first got together, we were about a year into our relationship, and I was navigating doing 3 years of back taxes. And so it took over a year for me to do it because I started taking money and it was going into my personal account. And so my personal and my business was all merged together, and it was just like so murky. But I came from a corporate gig where I was traveling the world and I didn't have taxes to pay because I was out of the country 11 months in one day. I intentionally was out of the country 11 months in a day. That way I would just come in, fill out a piece of paper, and just carry on about my life. And so I did that for almost 6 years. So I had to come off of ships and grow up in the US essentially. Like I had to have my like moment of, well, I'm going to be a coach and I'm going to write and I'm going to figure out how to make money. And then like money would come. And then I was like, oh, well, now what do I do with this? All right, cool. Well, now money, you pay me. And then I pay my bill and I go get a new pair of shoes. And it was just so murky. And that was really intense. But anyway, as time has gone by, Jordan has really stepped up in learning that portion of our business and working with our tax advisors and working with the people that have set up our actual like our payroll and just the business entity itself, and has really given that a type of attention that I don't know if I would ever give it. Like I don't know where it would come from in me because of all the things that I do.
Yeah.
Where do I also have time for that? And I'm so grateful that he's not particularly stoked to be doing that role, though, as he continues to grow in his knowledge and he goes on these really painstaking kind of like calls with people and where he's absorbing information and he comes back and he's like, my brain hurts. And I'm so grateful that he's able to take that portion of what we do and like alleviate the pressure
Mm-hmm.
from me in a lot of senses. So
Yeah.
we're definitely working together, but we're also working somewhat siloed in a sense, like you're talking about with your husband.
Mhm.
And so it's, and I can't remember why I was sharing that as like, that was going to lead me somewhere. But then I was like, oh no, I'm thinking about poor Jordan getting all these fucking calls that he hates. And, but he's growing as for sure. He's growing as the leader in that regard in our relationship, but also in our family,
Yeah,
and so, so that's
totally.
that's definitely super helpful with regards to like future dad points, you know?
Yeah,
And it's just
definitely.
like I don't want to have to do it all. I really
Mhm.
don't.
I mean, even something we had to kind of work through, which is kind of wild because it's 2023. You would think this isn't something, but is the traditional gender roles.
Yeah.
And especially the last few years, his father passed away last year, and we made the mutual decision near the end of his life. He had prostate cancer, and we were lucky that we could be in New York and be with him. And I said, Mike, no more poker. You go be with him 24/7. And we were able to do that. And so we
Mhm.
decided that's what's going to happen. And that's time, like that's such precious time that a lot of people can't take. And that kind of woke us up to like, we really get to shape this how we want. So when he came back to doing poker, there will be seasons where like I never clean dishes. I just don't do it. I love to cook and I actually enjoy it. So it's kind of like decompressing for me in a way. So I'll do that, but he'll like clean the vegetables, cut the vegetables. I'll cook the rest because I don't like the cutting.
Right.
But he'll clean the kitchen. He organizes everything in our home, all of our flights, everything with our dog, like all the home stuff he's in charge of so that I can just do my work, show up, be creative, do the cooking, and then that's pretty much it. And it's like, I remember in the beginning trying to do all of that and thinking I should. And then when we had a discussion of, hey, we need to realize that we're gonna be in different seasons. When he was in his poker crazy season, he was literally playing 14 hours a day, and not even exaggerating. It was I didn't see him. It was wild. I cleaned because he couldn't, And so we just kind of that was actually a weird thing for a while though for
Mm.
us where we thought we had to do certain roles. And I'm like, what is this? This is crazy. Like, let's do what's best for our family. And when we have a kid, he's probably going to take a step back with poker because this business supports us a little bit more and he'll help out more with our baby at home, and we'll see what happens when that happens. But it's just something kind of funny that we had to really overcome, which I didn't expect.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, what do you think when go to start your family? Because this is definitely a place, Jordan and I find ourselves in too.
Mhm.
Because there's I don't know, I'm consistently having conversations with my girlfriends about this. I watched when we all got together as friends and got really, really close, everyone was an entrepreneur.
Mm.
I'm the only one left
Wow.
in 3 years.
Wow.
So some still have like their podcast, but
Yeah.
with regards to like running programs and dealing with clients and all those things, it's just like a steady form of content. And like maybe there's some passive affiliate income that comes in, but generally like it's mom duty. And I'm
Mhm.
looking around and I, there's can't remember what it's called. It's I don't know, I'm stuck on the term diffuse awareness, but it's not diffuse awareness. It's like it's a type of influence that your friends in your close community has on you.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna have to look this up. But yeah, it's basically where the people that you spend the most time around, their dreams and desires essentially become yours. And
Yeah.
I've had to really come to terms with, and journaling has helped a lot with this. Morning journaling, just like sifting through my thoughts and doing the artist way, has really helped with this because I felt myself starting to get carried away with
Mm.
like, I'm building this, but what is it for? If what I want to do is be a mom, what is like really what is all of this for? And I'm like, but this is for to support our family. And being very like in this interesting, I'm trying not to worry about something that's not actually happening yet.
Yeah.
and hopefully it never does. But at the same time, like, who am I in this? And then like through journaling, I very recently have been writing about how I don't want to lose this part of who I am and what I do. I'm very, very connected, and not to say that some of my closest friends weren't very connected to what they do, but this registers as I eat, breathe, sleep, dream, relationships, sex, love, human connection, personal development. Like, this is where I belong. And I know that, and I feel that so deeply inside of me. And there's more. Like, I feel it inside of me. I'm not done yet. And so
Yeah.
at the times when I feel like, my close community, I'm starting to get impacted by their dreams and desires where they want to go buy 12 to 20 acres of land and start homesteading in Texas, and start, having lots of babies and chickens and all that. I'm just like, you don't want that. Like, you actually, like, remind yourself, you
Yeah.
don't actually want that. That's what the people that you care about, they can want that. Let them want that,
Mhm.
and I've got, like, I don't know, three, no, actually there's five couples, and four of them are remodeling brand new houses. Like, the
Mm.
houses that the house isn't brand new, but new houses for them. And they're remodeling or building and doing this remodeling process. And I'm just like, I'm, that's a full-time job. I'm not doing
Yeah.
that. I will not
Yeah.
do that right now, and it's so different where I am now, which is a really interesting thing also to navigate, is like feeling, it's not ostracized. That's not the word either. It's just like all of a sudden we're like really different. I'm really different
Mm.
to you guys. Like, but we're still so close. And so I'm just in
Yeah.
the curiosity, like, what is this actually going to look like? Because out of all of them, well, not out of all of them. One in particular was also her husband's boss, and then
Oh,
they sold
wow.
their company. And when they sold their company, it's like, okay, we're gonna have kids, and they're gonna do that. But anyway, yeah, that the question of like, what is this actually gonna look like for me when we decide to start our family? So what's that conversation been looking like for y'all?
Yeah, it's everything you said. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I see that." And I even see that on not the opposite end, but like I have a couple really, really close friends who are very single and have no desire to be married or have kids, at least not in the near future. And so I'm so in that place where even in that I can see not tension or anything, but just different lifestyles. We want to do different things, like how where we spend our weekends, things like that. So it's just so interesting to see all of that happen. So the biggest thing we've kind of talked about is everything I'm doing now and have been doing for the last, I would say 6 months or so, even more than that, honestly, it's probably been a year at this point, is for a family. So I go, can I run these programs? Can I run my business as it is right now with kids? And I say yes. And I'm sure once it happens, I'll be like, okay, actually got to take a step back. But how I've structured it, I really do truly feel like I can. I have co-coaches, I have people helping. Like it's such a different world than it was a few years ago. So in that sense, I don't see that changing too much. And we talked about that, but we've also had the discussion, and he said, if you realize it is too much and you need to take a step back, you take a step back and I will take a step up and we will be fine, and this is how we're going to do it. And so we're very lucky in the sense that with the online space, once you've built a really established brand, you can kind of do that. You can kind of pivot, you can kind of take a break and then go, hey, I'm back and here's this great thing, and actually sell it, and we've spent many, many years building that. And so I think because we have that, I feel that's like a nest egg in itself. And I feel very lucky to have that. But we've had conversations about, this is the plan. I'm going to continue the way I am. Everything I'm building, I can do while I have a baby, but I'm going to need you to step up in these other ways outside of the business and maybe even in the business. And if I feel like I do need a more of a break, then I'm going to need you to step up in poker and in other ways that he makes money. So it's been discussed, but I'm sure once it actually happens, maybe the plan will go all down the tube. Who knows?
Oh
Who even knows
yeah. Oh
what's gonna
yeah.
happen?
Plan. Ha.
I might be like your friends and be like, just kidding, selling the business. Bye. I don't think
La-
so,
Laugh in the
but
face of a plan.
you never know. Because I'm
Yeah, I
like
don't
you
know.
said, I can't imagine myself not doing something like this. It's just such a passion. Yes, it's to support my family and to make money, but it's so much more than that. It
Yeah.
truly, truly is. It's why we're still here so many years later. So I can't imagine it totally going away. It's going to look different, but I can't imagine never doing it.
Mm. All right. The question that everyone's been waiting for me to ask directly. What does your sex life look like? How do you maintain polarity with this dynamic? What has softening looked like to you, or for you in your relationship? And kind of, you mentioned the more traditional gender roles. Yeah. Okay. We get to redefine them, but still the essence of
Yeah.
feminine, masculine energies at play and all that in order to create polarity, in order to have two poles that want to come together and have sex with each other. What has that journey looked like for y'all?
Yeah. Oh, it's been a journey. So we've been through a lot of masculine feminine embodiment. Like I said, practices, weekends, retreats, things like that, all virtual so far. And those were game changing because I didn't have any practices or anything that I could do. And when I actually went through it, I was like, oh, it's really, at least what I learned, it's really a lot of like dancing and just being in your body. I was like, I can do that. I love doing that. And it was so much simpler. I thought there was like a switch I had to turn to get in my feminine. And it's so different than I thought. And so we both have these practices now that we can do and that we do use to kind of transition at the end of the day. And James and Angela helped us so much with this, but and I never thought I would do this, and neither did my husband. We schedule sex
Yeah. Oh yeah.
every single week.
Yeah.
So
Get it.
every single week, as we're recording this, today is one of our sessions later
Yeah.
today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes it goes one way, sometimes it goes another. If one of us is feeling sick or just down or whatever, obviously we're flexible, but we every week have a meeting and we schedule at least 2 sessions, whether it's a longer session or just a quick one. And that might look as actual like sex, or it might just be some kind of other intimacy. It might not be actual sex. And so that has been game changing, because we used to think not scheduling is you need spontaneity, and it's not going to be sexy if you schedule. And it's been the complete opposite for us. So that's been game changing. And we try to do one session on the weekend when we just are a little bit more free and not as busy, and then one during the week. And now we've started to rotate who takes charge. So I really like when he takes charge. He's definitely more the dominant. I'm definitely more the submissive, but as far as setting up and planning, we are rotating that a little bit, which has been kind of fun because I've been having fun with that too. So yeah, all of that combined has really, really helped, but the scheduling has been game changing for us.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much because there's so many people. If I mention, it depends on the crowd that the company I'm keeping, or the crowd that I've got around me, where I'm like, oh, schedule your sex. And it's like, oh, no, you schedule sex, it's all going downhill from there, where you got to put it on the calendar. I'm like, well, if you put it on the calendar and you reluctantly show up for your obligated one time a week sexual experience, where you literally just like take your pants off, you leave the rest on, and you just like spread leg, let's do it. I'm just like, oh, that, yeah, no, we're not talking about that. We're literally talking about, we're looking at the reality of a busy life.
Yeah.
And not just a busy life, but like having, I imagine like your time in the office when you're spending there, it's like, okay, we're feeling on fire and like we're flowing in creativity and organization and getting things done and giving direction and getting on calls and being an authority and all these things. And then to get out of this environment, and I'm gesturing towards my office, and like getting out of this environment to then go into another room in the house, I'm like, first off, it's my responsibility to kind of like shrug and shed
Mm-hmm.
what is in this office off of me,
Mm-hmm.
so that I'm not bringing that, into
Yeah.
my connection that I want to have with my husband. Because if I bring all of that with me, he's like trying to be a certain way and I'm immediately critiquing it. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
like holding it at arm's length. And so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that's easier said than done. And sometimes I come out of the office and I'm like, I'm having a hard time letting it go. I
Yeah.
just have the self-awareness and don't shame myself for not being able to let it go, but I state it, that whole name it to tame it kind of thing. And then Jordan knows, oh, I can diffuse this a bit with a little humor, with a little bit of, so he'll start talking to me like I'm softer. He'll start talking to me like at times like kind of a little girl, where he's like, oh, come here, baby. And he's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
how's my girl? And he'll like kind of pet my head, and he's like, you can let it go. And like, he says it from this like kind of playful, sweet way. And then he'll put, chest to my chest, and he'll breathe with me, and he'll help me down regulate, and he'll help me get, real grounded and stuff. And so, we might have like that window of time, but this is the kind of like crunchy, I don't know, transition in between that we have to go through in order to get to a place where we are open to having intimacy or sex with each other. And so, yeah, like it can look like, okay, we need some maintenance sex. It's been a few days. We've been really busy. And so we only have this 40-minute window here where we're both going to be at the house at this particular time. And so like Jordan will come to me and he's like, you ready to bang it out? And like, he's playful in that way, you
Yeah.
know, but because I know that we're not just banging it out every time, I
Mhm.
can surrender into this is a quickie. Like my orgasm is probably not going to be the best. I'm not going to be as warmed up, but I'm still in it. I'm not
Mhm.
enduring for the sake of, you know, we just need to get the sex done.
Mhm.
And then sometimes there's windows of time, like you're saying, that you plan intimacy where it's like, it's a window of time that we've both agreed to not put anything else there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like this is
See what happens.
sacred. This is
Mhm.
sacred. I'm not going to plan another Zoom call or a podcast interview or a client session, reschedule because that's her only time she can do it. Like that's a boundary that I get to set. And
Yeah.
I go, no, like this is my sacred time. Unless there's, you know, a perfect opportunity to shift it a little bit one way or the other. Then sometimes there's some flexibility there. But
Yeah.
then in that window of intimacy, it's like we can surrender, you know, into knowing that, okay, there are at least, like you said, 2 times on the calendar.
Mhm.
So I can exhale. I take the pressure off of myself for that spontaneity. And what's more likely to happen is some spontaneous sex or spontaneous intimacy because we feel surrendered and relaxed and connected. And like
Yeah.
we can trust each other to show up. You know, that's a lot of
Mhm.
pressure to put on a relationship and to put on each other to be in the mood at a random time at the same time.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's why I think when we started doing this, I was like, wow, this is actually it also, at least for us, like I'm going to text him today. He's going to text me. We're going to like flirt all day. And it lets you get excited for that. Just like a dinner or a show or a night out with your friends, like whatever that is that gets you excited, we get to flirt all day and warm each other up in that way for it. And so it's not just like you said, okay, it's on the calendar, it's time. It's like we know it's happening and it's something really we can look forward to, especially during busy seasons. It's like, oh, I know I have this, which is really
Mm.
filling.
So, what
Yeah.
is your favorite thing that he has, or your favorite type of thing that he has planned?
What's funny is he always gets so, and I think there's a lot of men in his head that it has to be this grandiose,
Yeah.
huge. I'm
Mhm.
like, no, you don't need to spend any money. You don't need to do anything crazy. And he did. He bought this. It's the only thing he spent money on for this scenario, but he bought, I love baths. I love a good bath. And he bought this bath setup where I could put, it was like a little table basically in my bath. And he drew me a bath, a bubble bath. He put like wine, cheese, crackers, my favorite sexy romance novel. And I think that was it, and had that ready. And so I got to do that for about 30, 40 minutes before I went into the room. The candles were set, the bed was made, our dog was in the crate, like all of that stuff. And we just played a game and started that way. But I was like, I feel like a princess. I feel like a goddess that was just taken care of. That was so beautiful. And that did it for me. And that was it. I was like, you don't need to do any more than that. That was perfect.
Oh my goodness. And then there's like so many people listening to this going, oh, and then holding their breath and then going, oh, that sounds so
Right?
nice. That sounds so nice. And I mean, whether you've got the fancy table or not, you don't need the fancy
Yeah.
table. Get a little bedside table or an end table or like the floor. You can set all
Yeah.
that stuff
Put a
out.
towel down. Yeah. Put some stuff
Yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, those are the times when I definitely feel Jordan's love too, because I know that he's doing something for me, but he also benefits. Like I am 100% a better person every single time I step out of the bathtub.
Mhm.
I'm 100% better than
So
I
true.
like of a better person. I don't know how to quantify that, but that sounds dramatic and accurate. So like I am just, yeah, I'm better. I feel better. I feel clean. I feel relaxed. I feel taken care of. It just represents presence to
Mhm.
me, but there is definitely a challenge though if I bring my phone too close to the bathtub
Yes.
because
Same.
sometimes I'll lay there and I'll just answer messages and I'm like, Alexa, this was besides the point. So
Yeah. Same.
yeah, but that is just so beautiful. And I'm glad that you were able to make that happen.
Yeah. No, it's been amazing. And again, like I've loved all the work that we've done with your coaches, James and Angela. It's been through Sex and Love Co. It's been game changing. It has, because we had so much trust and love But for us, that was such a missing piece, because when you go without it for so long, it all of a sudden becomes this thing. You're like, do I know how to do this anymore? Do I know what I like? And so it's just been a whole discovery. And honestly, we feel like it's just getting started, and we're 35, 36. So I really feel like everything's just getting started, and it's very exciting.
Mm, feel it
Mhm.
too. I definitely feel it too. All right. Well, thank you so much for having this chat with me for our audience. And again, I know that there's so many people that are listening that whether they're entrepreneurs or not, they still can feel resonance with what we've been talking about and the dynamics that play out in between partners in a relationship. And so I think I want to kind of end on the note of just hearing, in prep for this conversation, which is different to probably most other podcast interviews you do,
Mhm.
and the work that you do. So I hope that you had fun getting to share unique stories and different things. And you never know, maybe now you'll get invited to be on more sexy shows,
We've been talking a lot about our relationship, even in my business content, and how
Great.
much it's been affected. And every time it's my favorite thing to talk about. So I'm like, I love it. This was so much fun. And it was just really refreshing to talk about this part, because this is
Mm,
what it's all about. Like all the
yeah.
money, all the hustle, all the work, it's for this life and this relationship. So I thank you for giving me a space to feel so comfortable to talk about it.
Absolutely. And of course, like all of our threads of connection, the fact that you've worked with some of our Sex and Love co-coaches, it's just yeah, I'm in my feels about,
Mhm.
your story and where you're at now. And the hope and the faith and the excitement for possibility and the feeling of it all goes up from here. And I
Mhm.
feel like we're just scratching the surface. I feel that way all the time with Jordan. I'm like, fuck, we're just scratching the surface. I have like a big
Yeah.
breakthrough and I'm like, whoa, we have it all figured out. And literally 24 hours later, I'm like, that was a drop in the bucket. And thank
Yeah.
goodness, because what kind of a life would we be living if we've like, oh, we've arrived?
Yeah.
It's like
Mhm.
you have this person that you get to do life with. That it's a constant. We use a term like festival. It's a constant uh ever evolving living thing in and of itself as our relationship and how we get to navigate it and support each other. And so it's really
Love it.
beautiful. If people want to hear more about you and your work and like really get into what it is that you do, where can they find you?
Yeah, since you're listening to a podcast, I have a podcast called The Pretty Awkward Entrepreneur. That's where I put out honestly my most vulnerable stuff, the most fun stuff, the most valuable, I think. So definitely check out there. And then on Instagram at Megan Yelaney, always hanging out there in my DMs. Feel free to say hi. Yeah, thank you again so much for having me. This has been really, really refreshing for me to talk about this kind of stuff. So I appreciate it.
Of course. And again, thank you for sharing your time and your vulnerability with all of our audience.
Thanks.